Witness Me by Humble Narrator, Chapter 1. Our story begins with a young man in his teen years as he sat outside a makeshift tent that was mainly a tarp to keep the sun out as he held a knife while recollecting his thoughts like he's been doing every day. When my life had begun, the world had long since ended, thought the young man as his hair was blond but wild and mangy as it had even covered not only his eyes but his face. Looking down at some photos, they were the last few bit of memories of his parents before they had died, as he remembered the story of their life long before the one he had now, a life where men and women were able to go to places in vehicles, pick up food and exchange it for something called money, and never having to spend the night with a knife under your pillow for the most part. But then he was lucky to not have been alive when his parents saw when shit hit the fan. Soon rioting had not only become an everyday thing, but police brutality, when a concept like that made sense, became an unacceptable norm in order to maintain order. Soon civil war broke, not amongst the state, prefectures, or provinces, but the people against all forms of authority. As the common punk would fight cops, the everyday salaryman would be caught strangling his boss, and where peaceful civilian-minded men either broke down to let themselves be consumed or allowed themselves to be a part of the anarchy. Yes, it had reigned supreme everywhere in the world as people demanded change from their government, from their leaders, from their community, and for every day that nothing was achieved was another day of hell on earth. But then it came to an end when these leaders would soon send in their own men to put a permanent stop on all this anarchy. Did the world come to an end? If there was a community too hot to let the police handle, send in the Marines to wipe them all out. If a soldier refused to defy orders, execute him on the spot. And if the odd chance the military were to fail, or it was determined to be a waste of effort and resources, nuke them to hell. It was of these actions that all forms of government had fallen indefinitely, and in its place came anarchy and freedom to all who were willing to survive these new rules of the world. And these new rules is what kept this young man alive for so long as he turned his head around and threw his knife into a snake that was lurking its way behind the man. Getting up from his spot, he went and pulled the knife out before grabbing the snake and proceeding to skin it. Once it had been skinned, he chopped the head and tail off respectfully before sticking a large pointy stick through it and put it over on his soon-to-be lit pit. Within 20 minutes his dinner was ready as he began to eat under the sun as he stared aimlessly back into the wasteland before him. When will I finally given the chance to die so I can meet you again, Mom and Dad? Thought the young man as he took a bite out of his snake as he reflected on his parents. His mother was someone he barely remembered, but if anything stood out about her was her long red hair, along with words that made his say love, warmth, and food. As for his dad, he lived a little longer, just long enough for him to die while trying to hide and protect his son, and for what? For a couple of wasteland punks who wanted their bike. Granted, while it is unfair, it's not unheard of, if not unseen, by this young man who has come to accept that in this new world people will kill each other and one another for anything, for food, water, fuel, sex, and simply out of psychotic hate. Does he regret not taking a stand? Maybe at some point he did, but now he keeps to himself and far away from those who would otherwise want to harm him and his home was nothing but a dirty mattress, a tarp, an old wall banner as a blanket, and the orange jacket he had claimed as rightfully his. Only those that are strong, smart, or selfish will survive, while the weak, kind, and charitable are doomed to fail, he thought before finishing the rest of his snake, before setting off back into the only settlement worth setting his foot in. The place in question was called Murphystown, a small community now repurposed to serve as a trade settlement for those who needed to make a pit stop or any locals looking for good, run by the fair mayor himself, Murphy. Granted, there was rules in place. When settling foot here, everyone must turn in their weapons at the entrance. If a fight were to break loose, depending on the reason and the numbers of witnesses, punishment can result in permanent ban to on the spot execution. And more importantly, no stealing. Easy enough rules to follow for the young man as he turned in his knife and made himself towards his local spot. Well, if it ain't the kid from out of town, greeting a man running some sort of food stand. Hello, said the young man curtly. What do you got for me today? Asked the man. 4 squirrel pelts, 5 snake skins, and honestly, I don't know what the hell this thing is, said the young man as he managed to pull out the pelt of a raccoon. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the usual, but since you gave me some new pelt skin for the wife, I'll throw in an extra half-gallon of water, plus one of our more premium flavored noodle bowls, said the vendor. Sounds good, said the young man as he began to take a seat on the counter next to a blonde-haired woman whose left arm was prosthetic and fully functional. Not paying her any mind, in spite of her being a beauty, the young man waited patiently before the vendor had set him a bowl of instant ramen noodles, with the promised premium ingredients being the chicken broth flavor. Hey, old man, what the hell are you pouring in his noodles? Asked the beautiful blonde. One of our famous premium spices to give it a little more flavor, said the vendor. Then pour some of that stuff in my noodles too, demanded the woman. Sorry, missy, but this comes with a price, said the vendor as the young man began to savor in the chicken flavor. What is a bag of lug nuts and gears not enough for what the hell I traded in for, said the woman. More than enough. However, if you want to try our premium flavors, you're gonna have to fork in at least 3 of those potatoes I gave you, said the vendor. Bullshit, that's more than half and you know it, said the woman. Hey, those are my prices, said the vendor before the woman decided to splash the remaining contents of her noodles in the man's face. Screw you, I hope you ran out of business, said the woman before she grabbed her backpack and looked down at the young man next to her before rolling her eyes. Ah, you win some, you lose some, am I right, kid? Asked the vendor as the young man was just in bliss, enjoying his new flavor of noodles. Once he had his fill, he was ready to head back before he realized that a crowd of people were at the entrance. Squeezing his way through, he saw that the reason everyone was at the gate was because they were examining some dead bodies, with their entire front side being disfigured from being dragged across the asphalt roads. Who could have done this to them? Asked someone in the crowd. Band of vandals, maybe, said someone else. Maybe it's someone new who's trying to move in here, said a different person. It mattered not to the young man as he went to pick up his knife as he began to make his way back home, only to spot a motorcycle just down the hill from his home. Pulling out his knife, he slowly crawled his way up the hill, ready to kill the thief who was on his property. However, that never happened on account of him being greeted by the end of a shotgun. Premium noodle guy, you're the last person I expected to see, said the blonde-haired woman back in the settlement. Don't do anything funny now and drop that knife of yours, said the woman as the young man had no choice but to ogle. That's all, that's right, said the woman as she began to circle her way around the man before turning her head back to look at her bike. There had better not be so much as a part out of place, you hear me, said the woman as the man said nothing but let out a grunt. No matter, you had nothing worth scavenging from that little spot of yours anyway, so consider yourself lucky, said the woman before she went behind the man and knocked him out cold with her shotgun. The man in question wouldn't wake up till many hours later, where he noticed half his water was gone as he began to crawl his way back into his tent. Too hot from lying under the sun for so long, he brushed his hair out of his eyes to reveal they were of blue color as he looked up aimlessly. Another day alive in paradise, thought the young man as he heard the sounds of roaring engines from afar. Getting up, he saw that a car had been completely surrounded by other bikes, and the driver and passenger were trying to flee or fend off for themselves before the bikers hopped out and forced them out of the vehicle. What came next was a sight the man had no tolerance or stomach for as he turned away and ignored the faint cries of help and mercy before hearing the engines roar for the last time. Sitting back up, he saw that the only thing visible from the site of this raid was a dead body on the ground with potential loot or anything worth valuable to trade. Making the short trip back down, he was surprised to see that the person on the ground was one of the bikers. More so, he wasn't even dead yet as he began to crawl towards the young man. You scav, don't you dare leave me here to die, wheezed the biker as the young man found this man to be pathetic in his hypocrisy. Then tell me how many people you left behind to die, asked the young man as the biker continued to wheeze. Fuck you, coughed the biker as he tried to force himself up. It mattered not to the young man as he began to pull out his knife and swiftly shoved it in the back of the man's head before he began to search his body, which wasn't a lot. The only thing worth keeping was a small pack of disposable lighters, his Swiss Army knife that had a can opener function, and a compass. Otherwise, his pants were too small, as were his boots, and the jacket he wore wasn't his style, and it wasn't because it was covered in blood, nor was it a color issue. What made this young man to deter from it was how on the bike it was embroidered with the words "Witness me," as this quote has since become a common last famous words said by people ready to die or commit an atrocious act. Sure, this world is very unfair. It has no mercy for the young, for the weak, and any established settlement had since adopted the Wild West rules. But with that being said, there still existed strong men, men who are strong not only in strength, in mass, but in grit, honor, and on principle to determine what is right and what is wrong, and how to act upon it. And, unknown to the young man before us, he was indeed one of these strong men this world needs now, whether he knew it or not, or wants to or not. Walking back to his camp, he began to light himself a small fire, as the sun had long since set, as he took solace in where he was, and thought back to times where he was happy. Naruto, it's time for dinner. He remembered his mother saying to him before her ultimately death, and as her face was slowly being forgotten. Naruto, I'm proud of you, my son. He remembered his father saying to him every day, even if there was nothing for him to be proud of. Naruto, whispered the young man under his breath, as that was just about the only thing he ever bothers to remember and hold himself with pride with any more in the wastelands of today. End of chapter 1. Witness Me by Humble Narrator, Chapter 2, Run Scab Run. No matter how old a man gets, he'll always worry about things that go bump in the night, and that logic applies especially out here in the wastelands of today. In the days since he'd last seen that blonde beauty, Naruto noticed that raid attacks among vandals, trade caravans, raiders, and the innocent has become quite frequent over this time, which meant only one thing for him. Damn, I was really starting to like this place, thought Naruto as he made himself a bindle and carried with him everything he owned inside, as he intended to leave this place alive while he can. Walking towards Murphy's Town for the last time, Naruto noticed that they've tightened up security since last time there had been one recorded attempted raid to the establishment. Thankfully, no one got killed as of yet, but it was soon to be forgotten settlement feelings before the night ended. Approaching to his usual stand, Naruto carried with him the last pelt he was ever going to trade. "Oh, hey kid, kinda crazy out there," said the store owner as Naruto laden said nothing as he began to ready unload the things he had for trade. "I'm going to stop you right there, son. Town mayor said he's prohibiting all trade for the time being," said the owner, which surprised Naruto. Clicking his tongue, Naruto begrudgingly began to unload everything he's gathered since his last visit. "Didn't you hear me, son?" said the owner. "Just keep it. It'll only weigh me down," said Naruto as he began to turn tail and leave it all behind. "Hold on, son. I can't on good conscience let you leave here without giving something back to you," said the owner as Naruto began to walk back to the counter. "Why don't you ditch the hobo bag you got there and take this instead?" said the owner as he handed Naruto a messenger bag before he began to fill it with a gallon of water. "Don't say or do anything to ward off attention, son, and I wish you a safe journey," said the owner. "Thanks," said Naruto as he began to pack up his own belongings inside. Once he got his things, Naruto was about to head out the front gate, but saw that it was closed. Mind letting me out?" said Naruto to one of the guards. "You don't want to go out there, especially how things are right now," said the guard. "How so?" Nudging his head over towards the barren fence, Naruto saw that there was at least 20 kinds of vehicles parked outside, with too many people to count all waiting at the gate. "This can't be good," thought Naruto as he noticed that everyone dressed alike and carried the same type of weapons, being blades of different shapes and sizes, while they seemed to wear denim clothes and wore animal masks. Stepping forward was a man wearing a crow mask as he had an M1 grenade rifle in one hand and a megaphone in the other. "Ladies and gentlemen, we come here searching for someone close to us that has decided to leave our beloved pack. You may have seen her as a young woman with beautiful blonde hair, robotic arm, and a nice set of knockers," said the man in the crow mask as many people amongst the group began to laugh. "She just so happens to be the daughter of our beloved leader and queen to the children of Grimm, presenting Queen Raven," said the man in the crow mask before he and everyone brought their hands to their chest, making the bird sign, and all cried out two loud caws. Once the announcement had been made, the man in the crow mask walked towards the woman sitting on top of the throne chair, which was on top of a cargo truck, as she wore a raven mask. Making her way down, the first thing she did was pull out one of her many katanas on her hip and sliced it down across the man in the crow mask's chest, killing him instantly. Picking up the megaphone, she turned and called down for a man wearing a tiger mask to get out and switch out his mask for the one that was once worn by the man wearing the crow mask. "Do not be alarmed, my friends. However, let this serve as an example that I shall not tolerate any harm or disrespect towards my daughter, as I am more than willing to reward you for providing me with any information regarding my daughter's whereabouts," said Raven. And to show a sign of good faith, me and my children shall leave immediately and welcome you to our camp, which is about 10 miles north of here. If you have any information in regard to my daughter Bear, said Raven as she handed the megaphone to the new man in the crow mask before they all began to head out. I don't trust them, said one of the guards. Who knows, maybe they're telling the truth, said a different guard. Didn't we see that girl they mentioned pass by here a few days ago, said the first spoken guard. Soon the whole town was murmuring amongst what to do and what's to become of them, before the sound of a rifle round being shot in the air could be heard. Coincidentally, the shot also managed to kill a bird in the sky, as the person who fired it was also another one of the town's guards, only this time standing next to the town's mayor himself, Mayor Murphy. Everyone, I need you all to to calm down and listen to me for what I'm about to say, and that's we don't ever deal or ally ourselves with road marauders or any kind, regardless of the fact we've seen this woman before already. No one, and I repeat, no one is to go out into the waste and say anything to them. Are we clear? Said Mayor Murphy as the vast majority silently agreed to his words. All right then, for now, we'll remain on lockdown and ready ourselves so should they choose to return, as Murphytown is no longer open to trade, said the mayor as people in the crowd began to jeer a little. Sorry, but our survival comes first and foremost, people, said Mayor Murphy as Naruto still waited by the gate so the guards could let me loose. Now, everyone get to work and prepare our defenses. I don't want to see no one standing around doing nothing unless you're on patrol and watching over the gate, said Mayor Murphy before everyone in motion began to move. All right, guys, you heard the mayor. Let's crack open the armory and make sure everyone here is well equipped. And I want you all back here before done down, said one of the guards as they all began to move. What are you doing standing there? Get to work, said the guard to Naruto. I don't even live here. I only came here trying to get some trade in before those weirdos came in here and spooked everyone, said Naruto. Hey, Mayor, we got a problem here, said the guard, getting the mayor's attention. What's wrong? Asked Mayor Murphy. We got an outsider here who happens to be at the wrong place and at the wrong time, said the guard as Mayor Murphy looked at Naruto. Yes, I do recall this young man coming into our town frequently to do some trade, said Mayor Murphy before fully facing Naruto. All right, I'll give you one of two choices. Either you can stay here and fight for us, and we shall accommodate you a place to sleep, or two, free meals and water, said Mayor Murphy. And what is my other option? Asked Naruto. Simple. We turn you loose and are a free man to wander the waste. However, you're not able to return back here so long as those rogues continued to maintain a presence here, said Mayor Murphy. A smart man, would choose to stay and fight and take the chance to finally call a place his own. However, a smarter man considers that factor as to how long this deal may or may not last should things clear up, along with the risk of getting too close. Thanks for the offer, but I'd rather leave, said Naruto. Very well, you're free to leave, and I do hope that we can see each other again during peaceful times, said Mayor Murphy as his guards opened the gate allowing Naruto to leave. As he began to head out, he went over to where Queen Raven had killed the man and searched for anything of value to his travels. Granted, they all left in a hurry, leaving behind the rifle, a weapon Naruto knows nothing about. Let anyone how to properly use it, but he'll figure it out somehow. Otherwise, he was able to grab himself 3 extra clips for the rifle, a bunch of small shivs to be used, more disposable lighters, and a full bottle of water. Otherwise, his clothes meant nothing but putting a bigger target on his back. Speaking of, he got to see the group's logo, which is a raven wearing a skull mask over its face. Admittedly, a cool look, but nothing something Naruto wouldn't dare parade wearing before taking out his compass and began to head east. Why east? Who knows, as he would take his chance and explore any direction far from his current home, so long as there'd be little to no danger. Unfortunately, taking a blind guess on foot in this wasteland was usually an invite to deal with the new dangers of the world, be it feral animals, radiation, poison, and catching an incurable disease, and this was in between dealing with bands of bandits and psychos that walked the earth. So it came to no surprise to Naruto that he heard the sounds of engines roaring from afar, which usually meant trouble, so naturally he either looked for a place for him to hide far out of sight, or on the high ground where it was putting the driver more at sight. Unfortunately, his situation didn't allow it, so like dealing with a vicious predator in the wild, he best The best thing to do is to stay calm and pay them no mind, since the simple sight of fear, anger, and bravery is an invite for a fight. As for who came in, there were small bands of bikers consisting of 5 men on 3 bikes as they began to slow down and circle around Naruto like a shark on a bleeding animal. "Look what we have here, boys! A scab with a pulse in this dead lands," said one of the bikers as they all mockingly laughed and hollered. "Hey, where do you think he got that piece from?" said a different biker. "I don't know, man, though it sure would look pretty good back in the boss's hands," said a different biker as they all began to circle around Naruto even tighter. "If it was for food or water or gasoline, the most simple and safest way out is to drop whatever they're eyeing, stand still, let them take what they want, and they usually drive off leaving you in one piece. However, when it came to dealing with arms, that's when it got tricky, since the prey could easily trap and kill the predator if he was smart enough, or talk his way out of it peacefully and walk away. Neither option was available to Naruto, as he had no way to use the rifle to begin with, plus he doesn't have really strong negotiation skills to begin with. What do you say, boys? Let's bring something nice back to the boss," said the first biker as they all either pulled out a chain or a bat, leaving Naruto on a high alert. They started by mocking and intimidating him by missing their swings to tire Naruto out as he tried to dodge any blow to the head, thinking once he'd be tired out, he'd be an easy kill. While true for everyone, for Naruto had a handful of others who hated bandits, it was only going to end in one way. Waiting for the right moment, Naruto went and swung the rifle like a bat and knocked a biker and his body off course, causing a small crash and opening for him to run. "Son of a bitch, you better run, scab!" shouted a biker as he began to drive towards Naruto, intent on killing him. Bluffing his way, Naruto turned and began to lift and aim down the rifle towards the biker at a close enough distance that the biker began to swerve out of the way. Working to Naruto's advantage, he took the chance to continue to run for his life before the biker turned back, ready to confront Naruto again as he began to drive back. Revving his engines, the biker began to charge down at Naruto with the intent to run over him. But Naruto had waited for the right time to duck from the biker's wing before he decided to pull out his knife. Just as he got up ready to fight to the death, Naruto was greeted with a chain to the side of his head before he was knocked back to the ground. "You're a tough little scab, but not tough enough," said a biker as they all gathered around and began to pull out their weapons with the intent of beating him to death. Not being able to react or do anything fast, all Naruto could do was curl up into a ball and used his arms to shield his head as they began to beat him with bats and chains. Broken and defeated, Naruto was finally ready to accept death at long last as one of the bikers went and picked up the rifle, where Naruto got to see how it worked for the last time. "Adios, scab," said the biker as he pointed the rifle towards Naruto before a loud booking sound of a gun was heard. Instantly, the biker who was ready to execute Naruto was sent flying dead, riddled with bullets in his side, before one by one his fellow biker members were killed by the sound of a shotgun. Weakly turning around, Naruto saw the person in question just so happened to be the blonde-haired girl that Queen Raven was looking for. "Ramen guy, ain't this a small world?" said the blonde-haired beauty as she cocked an empty shell from her shotgun. "Bear," mumbled Naruto as the blonde-haired woman's eyes popped out before they furrowed into a glare. "Who the hell told you that was my name?" demanded the blonde beauty as she began to grab Naruto by the collar of his shirt before he finally passed out. While she should by all means kill him on the spot, something about Naruto made the blonde-haired beauty think otherwise to kill this guy before she decided to take him back for questioning. End of chapter 2.